What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to episode number 557 of the Smark Moment Smack Talk podcast, Hot Tags of the Week. We're going to be breaking down some stories and rumors and gossip and news and TV recaps and everything else that went down in the world of pro wrestling that we feel like talking about. I'm your host, as always, Tony Mango. Joining me, as always, are Cal Wiggins.
Hello there.
And Robert DeFelice.
Hey, everyone.
So, we are, it's August 5th. We've got SmackDown coming up. We've got a couple other things coming up later on this day. We just got done recording another episode of the podcast. You guys are going to be hearing about 2 weeks from now, a week and a half or something. We did the UK top rope list that we have been talking about. So stay tuned for that one. Very fun discussion. And we're going to hopefully have another really good discussion here. And we hope that you join us for this whole thing with your thoughts. So drop them in the comments below on YouTube. If you're listening elsewhere, then shout them into the ether, especially with a megaphone that looks like something that Jimmy Hart would have had. And you can leave comments on Twitter and Facebook and go to the page on smarkoutmoment.com and everything like that. But if you are on YouTube, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't done that already. Also, ring that little notification bell, get those email alerts set up. And if you want to help us out on the monetary side of things, just to get this out of the way as far as plugs are concerned, you can see some other buttons on there, including the thanks button, which is like a little tip jar, and the join button, which acts the same way as the Patreon. So if you go to patreon.com/smarkoutmoment, you will be able to see the same tiers that you see over on the members only side of YouTube, like the Dark Cast and the Pick Your Poison, or just even the $1 a month. Just a means to lend a hand and just to show that you enjoy our content. You think that the at least 2 podcasts per week, sometimes a little bit more than that, you know, you're getting however many hours that translates to. We pretty much never do a podcast that's less than an hour. Usually they're somewhere between 1 and 2, around that 1.5 hour range. So you figure that times 2, times 4, possibly add a couple more for the pay-per-views. $1 a month. Consider donating. Also pick up some TeePublic and Redbubble merchandise over on those websites. Lots of different designs, lots of different options of what you can put those designs on. All that funnels back towards me being able to not only spread the wealth and everything, but also to have more time to do more of this content and less of the other stuff. So if you want more from Smark Out Moment, if you want more from Fanboys Anonymous, then those are the best ways to make sure that I can dedicate the time to do that and that other people can dedicate that time too. So as we go along here, keep all those things in mind and let's start getting into some of these things. Let's talk about the Ric Flair's last match event. That pay-per-view happened this weekend, and I got a chance to watch that live. I think that all of us watched all of it, right?
I watched it live. I don't know if Callan watched it live. I doubt it. But
I didn't watch it live. I watched it after the fact.
Did you both watch the whole thing, though, even the pre-show?
Or did you just watch the match?
I watched some of them. I to the vast majority of it. I just didn't have time.
So we'll keep that in mind. But for anybody who didn't see it, we'll give you a quick rundown of the results as well and any other kind of thoughts. Ren Narita beat Yuya Uemura. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Yeah.
So that was a match. I mean, I didn't think anything of it.
It was pretty good.
Mance Warner won the Bunkhouse Battle Royal. I had never heard that name before that I could remember. And there were people in here that I had. I mean, there was, Big Damo was in here. Bully Ray was the last to get eliminated. James Storm was the person that we were all kind of going, it seems like it's a James Storm thing. Joey Janela ended up popping up. Blake Christian, who now seems like he's potentially signed with AEW and or Ring of Honor, depending on how that goes. You got some names like Sin Bodhi and Wolfie D that I hadn't heard in a while. Effie was in there. This was a fun and interesting thing, but kind of a mess as well. And then once Mance Warner won, I was just like, all right, this isn't really doing too much for me at this point.
But apparently by winning that, he earned a match with Jon Moxley on Rampage. So there you go.
That's something I'm into, though, with AEW. Even though I don't have any Mance Warner's going to fight, It's like, okay, he won a battle royal at a pay-per-view recently. Put him in a match against Moxley. Moxley can beat him. And then you get an interesting, new, fresh person. He beats somebody that's got some credibility going into that. And you don't have to just beat Angelico again or something.
I like the bunkhouse match. It's fun. I like fun, gimmicky wrestling. And where else are you going to see Crowbar in 2022? And Nick Gage and the GCW guys hit the ring. And I thought that was a lot of fun.
After that was the Motor City Machine Guns against the Wolves. This match I missed. I was cooking dinner at the time, and I was just kind of like, all right, if I don't start cooking now, it's going to be taking forever because the whole pay-per-view is going to go by. And next thing I knew, the match was over. So I didn't get to see this. I also didn't get to see Killer Kross against Davey Boy Smith.
The tag match was fun. It was not as good as, maybe they could have been if they were given like a ton of time in a featured program. But it was a lot of fun. And as far as Kross and Davey Boy, about what you'd expect. It was the result that we all expected. A nice, hard-hitting, big man match. And I think both guys are kind of at this point windows to an era gone by.
What was the next match after that? It was the number one contender for the Progress World Championship. 4 corners match. Jonathan Gresham beat Alan Angels, Konosuke Takeshita. I always want to say Takeshita differently. And Nick Wayne. We had kind of been saying that Nick Wayne would have potentially made sense, but Gresham ends up getting the win.
So the Progress thing, I don't think was fully known going into it.
Not when we were doing our predictions, at least.
It's super cool that he won. Match was too short for me, but I'm glad Gresham won. I'm glad it seems like he might be sticking around.
Yeah,
did you get a chance to check that, Callum?
Yeah, I took a look at this match. I thought, yeah, it was good. I don't say it's but with talent involved, you were expecting more from it. But yeah, having Gresham win was interesting because that means that if he is going for the Progress World Championship, it means that he's unlikely to be stepping away entirely anytime soon. So maybe the rumors surrounding him being done with wrestling entirely might have just been over exaggerated, just a heat in the moment thing, and now he's seeing clearly a bit more and thinking, okay, I don't need to work for AEW or anything, but I can continue to make a living somewhere else. So yeah, good for him.
We had Brian Pillman Jr. and Brock Anderson beat Ricky Morton and Kerry Morton. Wasn't super keeping my attention, to be honest.
Surprising result. We've given Ricky Morton and Robert Gibson a chance to bow out with a win in the Nashville Municipal Auditorium. But maybe this is good for Brock Anderson and Brian Pillman moving forward in AEW.
Well, Gibson wasn't wrestling anyway.
Well, he was still with them.
Yeah, well, Gibson's pretty much retired anyway. It's Ricky Morton's only just continuing with Kerry. Gibson's pretty much said that he's
they finally
for the most part done. Yeah,
their final farewells, but it was interesting to see, and they were calling them the Horsemen. Then you might forget that Arn and Pillman were super close in that 95 run, but I don't know. I just hope it leads to something for them because Brock's wasting away on AEW.
Wasting away, you think? Or hasn't earned a spot, really?
Wasting away in the sense of he's just sort of background noise, and if there is potential, we don't know.
We had a 4-way. This was one of the best matches of the night. Ray Phoenix beating Bandito, Laredo Kid, and Black Taurus.
Yeah, I knew this would be good.
Yeah, this was about everything that you could imagine when you hear those 4 names. Lots of heights, lots of flips, just a lot of fun.
Taurus holding down the fort and everything. I know that Peyton was watching that and he was like, I love this Black Taurus guy. That was fun. Josh Alexander beat Jacob Fatu. Or no, he didn't beat him. That was a no contest. That's right. interference by Myers and such.
Randomly.
Yeah, out of nowhere. I mean, I guess it's just a means to not beat Fatu, but keep the belt on Josh Alexander. So this was kind of a meh in my mind.
If they're smart, they build to Cardona and Alexander at Bound for Glory. I think Cardona right now should get whatever belts he wants because he's one of the few names out there. So hopefully he gets what he wants. Fatu's great though. I wish WWE had him. I wish AEW had him. I wish some big company had him because he's amazing.
There was a thing earlier in the night with Fatu where Frank the Clown came out, and then Fatu, like, with Foley, ended up beating him down.
Wasn't supposed to be that wasn't supposed to be Fatu.
Right.
It was supposed to be Alex Hammerstone. But Hammerstone was his travel got disrupted, and so he wasn't able to make it. There's actually a few travel problems because the next match, I don't know whether it was the next match, but one of the matches is the next match, the Briscoes against the Von Erichs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that match was supposed to go on earlier in the show, but they had to delay it because the Von Erichs' travel was delayed.
Which I think that this was a good enough spot for it. It didn't feel weird to me. I don't know when they would have planned on doing it. If they would have just done that, like
I would have thought they would have done that one earlier and swapped that around with the machine guns.
Maybe.
Wolves match.
But at this whole Frank the Clown thing, after this happens, and I'm like, all right, the Renarita match happens. You got the Bunkhouse Battle Royal following the Frank the Clown thing, and I'm sitting there going, this isn't really doing it for me. And then Foley's with his kid, and he says, "This is better than SummerSlam." And I'm like, what fucking show are you watching?
The kid said it was better than SummerSlam.
Right. Yeah. But I'm just like, did he watch SummerSlam?
I mean, different strokes.
Well, the kid
for
was
different
there.
folks.
He was there. It's a different feeling when you're at the event compared to watching it on TV.
Still, thumbs down on that comment. I disagree entirely. But to each their own. Whatever. Briscoes beat the Von Erichs as they should, because they are the Briscoes. And I didn't see too much of it, to be perfectly honest. This was one of those things where we're late enough in the night, and I'm like, all right, I'm really kind of mostly here for the Flair thing. I'm mostly kind of just doing the waiting until whoever wins, paying a little bit of attention, working on some other stuff, writing up an article at the time. So I can't talk about the Von Erichs as far as being like, okay, now I finally saw them and I really like them or dislike them or anything. I don't remember disliking the match, but I don't remember loving it either.
It was fine. I think it was run of the mill. They didn't have the kind of match that I would like to see where, Tornado style. But I thought it was good. Hopefully the Monarchs get a chance to shine on a bigger stage at some point.
They're MLW, right?
Yep.
Okay. So I was just going to say, I wonder if they can be picked up by anybody in particular, but maybe we'll see. What was the next match after that?
Knockouts Championship.
That's right. Knockouts, yeah.
Yes. Jordan
Grace against Deonna Purrazzo and Rachel Ellering, who suffered an injury pretty early on, came back, still ended up doing that. Grace retains, and that's the thing. Pretty much all assumed that Grace was going to retain, so that's not too shocking.
Right. It was fine. I didn't really leave an impression.
Any thoughts on that, Cal?
Again, yeah, it's one that just kind of passed me by. It was just a pretty run-of-the-mill triple threat match.
So the main event, with our great setup of that parking lot. Yeah, you hit me in my surgery spot or whatever it was. Ric Flair and Andrade El Idolo against Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett.
All right, let's start with some positive. Positive. The set looked really good. I should have mentioned that earlier. I think that this looks better than some of the Impact shows. Like, I really enjoyed the Jim Crockett Promotions set. It at least had its own unique feel.
If you're talking about extra stuff, The one dude on commentary was terrible. I mean, not the worst I've ever heard in my life, but the one guy I could not. Everything he said was just sort of like worthless. Tony Schiavone's great, but the other guy I wasn't a big fan of.
Yeah, if you're talking about David Crockett, I thought it was fine. Look, Jarrett looked great. I just want to say that Jeff Jarrett looks like he hasn't aged all that much since maybe 2007. And I thought Andrade was the MVP of this match in many, many, many ways.
Yeah.
And
as expected.
Jay Lethal was there to also provide some foundation. Let's talk about Flair.
We all knew it wasn't going to be great. So for anybody that goes into this expecting the best match of all time, you're going to be disappointed. But I still honestly think that it was more disappointing than I even thought that it was going to be perfectly honest. I hope Flair is happy with it, but he can't even remember it because he got concussed or something.
Oh, he didn't. So
he said that he blacked out, right?
His offense for the match was kind of just, I'm going to stand in the middle and you're going to come to me, which is fine. I'm not, like he is 73. But at the same time, like, come on, you were promoting this with all this fire, and then you got out there and you were quickly winded. And God, at one point after he was cut open and Megan, his first daughter, got into it with Karen Jarrett, Flair was just bloody and passed out for like the entire rest of the match.
He'd be getting like, somebody would hit him in the stomach and he wouldn't budge. He'd get a kick to the chest. He wouldn't sell it at all.
Because he was just
out of it. Yeah.
And for me, like the scariest spot in the world, because Andrade, sorry, I'm jumping all over this, but Andrade was from minute one trying to guide Flair and like, hey, okay, you showed off for this side of the crowd. Now look over here, and Flair wouldn't go. This is before the bell even rang. But then Flair's just down and out, and Andrade helps get rid of Jarrett. He catches the brass knuckles, puts the brass knuckles on Flair, and it was the scariest thing for me because Flair's not moving. And the brass knuckles fall off of his hand. And I'm like, oh God, I hope he's conscious. And then, of course, he gets up slowly. He hits a punch on Jarrett with the brass knuckles. Figure four, completely down for the figure four. Like he puts it on, but just falls back to the mat, and his shoulders are down too. Referee counts to 3. Purple confetti comes down, and Ric Flair is just sort of laying there for a few moments. And laying there. And then once he finally starts talking, first thing he says is, I hope it was good. I don't remember half of it. Good Lord. This is the scariest experience I've ever had watching a full match.
Lots of people were making jokes, even on like the roast, which I didn't get a chance to check out, but I've heard that it wasn't really all that great. Plenty of people doing the whole like, Ric Flair is going to die in this match. And then it's like, you're watching this match and you're like, oh, fuck. Come on. Like, this isn't looking good. And, the brass knuckle spot, like you're talking about, like a lot of things were just sort of uncomfortable. Yeah. And for anybody that goes, hey, fuck you. Why you think, let the legend have one more thing. Look, it was his decision. And if he, as I said before, if he is happy with it, then that's great. But I am of that opinion of like, I don't think you needed to do it. And I don't think that this is something that you can look back and be like, okay, well now the legacy is restored.
Yeah.
Or anything. I think it's just more harm than anything.
Let's talk about the fact that Ric Flair apparently couldn't live with TNA being the end. Really? You couldn't live with the match on global TV against Sting? Being the last thing you did in wrestling? You would prefer this, which was basically just like, Undertaker was in the front row for this, and even I was like, okay, I bet you, with the look that he's given this match, Undertaker's never been more grateful that he retired when he did.
Maybe, yeah. And of course, at the end of the match, when he's cutting the promo, it ends up being mostly about Kid Rock.
And he's just like,
Kid Rock's like, I'm going to go party with Kid Rock.
I fucking did it. All right, I'm going to go party with Kid Rock. How's that shit? What? Okay. Like, look, I think that Ric Flair is one of the best of all time. I just hope that Ric Flair's done being Ric Flair. And I hope to God that someone is pulling him aside and saying, we love you. You are valued beyond your fucking wrestling career. Because for me, that was the heartbreaking part of it. And he felt like he needed to do all that just to feel alive again.
Yeah, it was pretty sad to watch from pretty much all perspectives, because you had to try and watch Jay Lethal and Andrade work around this guy who was just a zombie in the ring, pretty much, in pretty much every respect. And yeah, seeing him, like, the brass knucks fall off and all these things going wrong, because you're essentially like trying to drag this flesh mannequin around the ring and trying to get something decent out of it. And the fact of the matter is, the crowd was going to love it regardless of what happened, because they were just there to see Flair. It didn't matter if the match was terrible or anything. It was like that was his moment, and they were going to be respectful no matter what. So that helps carry it through. It would have been pretty awful if if the crowd just started chanting things like "you fucked up" or something along those lines. So you knew that wasn't going to happen. So at least you knew that you were going to get an easy crowd to perform in front of. But yeah, I completely agree with Robin saying that The Undertaker probably watched that and thought, yep, that's not going to be me.
But brother, like his face, that entire thing was just like, why am I front row for this? Fuck, this looks awful. Like he was just like, go ahead.
The sad thing about it is that and he didn't have to wrestle a full match, but he came in for one spot. It was DDP earlier in the night. Came in to do a diamond cutter on, was it Cardona or Brock Myers or someone?
Cardona.
Like
you look great.
Cardona. Yeah, and he looks in phenomenal shape for a guy of his age. Like he's approaching 70 now. And like, yeah, and he's a guy who I would actually be totally fine with having a match at this point, because, you know, with all the yoga that he does and everything like that, he's probably could still do something resembling a match. Whereas this was just, yeah, it was a guy who is the shell of his former self, trying to desperately plod his way through a match, and just essentially just letting a load of younger guys who are in their prime, and Jarrett, who can still do some stuff but is clearly not who he was, carry him, even though the show's meant to be all about him. So, you know, it's not a match that I'll ever really want to go back and see again, unless I want to terrify myself about the process of aging.
For the people that would say that all this criticism is too harsh, I would ask you this. With the whole discussion of like less is more with a lot of things, really objectively ask yourself, is there anything that happened on this card that you feel is worth having the whole card happen the way that it happened, versus the idea of, if this didn't happen, what would you be missing out on? I don't remember how that Sting match ends for his last one, but I got to imagine
it's
that
non-finish. It's a non-finish.
A non-finish?
Yeah.
Even still, I got to imagine
still look better than he did here.
It's probably still better than locking in the figure four and laying down and having it be a pinfall where you're also down for the pin. You know?
And then there's like the weird celebration where they're trying to give him the big gold belt. He came out with the real big gold belt from 85 and all that. And God, he just couldn't care less. He was just trying to like walk around. And finally, I think they gave it to Andrade to give it to him. There's a weird moment where like he went to fist bump someone, and he just ends up fist bumping Blake Christian, and everybody was like, "Oh, I didn't know that they were that close." The whole show just had like this weird. Come on, this isn't Flair's. Like, this isn't a celebration of Flair. I don't care what feelings he had about not wanting to be done. Ric Flair's send off with Shawn Michaels was the perfect send off. It was great. Then you think about, okay, TNA, the run wasn't great, but hey, you ended with Sting. Hey, you had that tour with Hogan. Even those matches, even though they only took place in Australia and no one's ever really seen them, it's still Hogan. Come on. It's heartbreaking, man. Like, it just is. It's just heartbreaking.
So those are. Oh, go ahead.
But having said all of that, reports do suggest that it did very well. Pay-per-view guys, why it drew somewhere between and about like 20, somewhere between 20 and 30,000 buys. I think 24,000 is the number that Fightful are reporting, and the gate itself drawing nearly 7,000 fans for a grand total of around about $450,000. It made it the second biggest gate for a independent show behind All In. So
That's crazy.
So really, in all accounts, this was a complete and utter success. Even if in ring wise it left some people feeling cold, and I could certainly attest to that. It was a great show financially.
Even with that in mind, though, for anybody who is going to jump on that train and go, because I've heard this over the past few days, people going, I want to see more Jim Crockett Productions. Do you really think that you want to see more of that? Because you're clicking on this because of Ric Flair's last match, not because of Jim Crockett Productions.
Here's my argument for that. I still think production-wise, they look better than some shit that I see every week.
I'm not going to deny that about the Impact side of things.
And I kind of like the idea of some kind of promotion that's doing like a super show. Again, whether you want to call this a super show or not is completely down to your own personal taste. But some sort of amalgamation of basically every promotion outside in America outside of WWE and Impact.
That's also dependent upon though.
AEW, WWE, yeah.
That's super dependent upon all these other companies being willing to do that. And I think without having it be the Ric Flair thing, you're not going to get the mainstream interest that goes along with that. You're not going to get the big names that are attracted to the card, and you're not going to get the willingness for, Tony Khan's not going to be like, okay, Andrade can work this other show. Or, hey, yeah, we can lend this tag team and have this title match. And, I don't think that that's going to happen with another thing. I think you just go, okay, we're going to do another Jim Crockett Productions thing on StarCast. This is 5, right? 4? I don't remember. 5. Whatever the next StarCast one. I don't think that they're going to be able to do anything other than to get some of these more random GCW type names and an oddball here and there. So maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Maybe that opinion doesn't age all that well. But I got a feeling that a second time around probably isn't going to happen. We'll see. Who knows? Maybe we end up getting another, like, so-and-so's last match. Anybody in mind that you'd want to see that?
Rock and Roll Express probably is the main one.
That would be great to do under Crockett Promotions. I mean, AEW will probably handle this, but Sting?
That's a future one more match discussion, I think. Maybe. All right, let's bounce around to another thing here. Let's go to... I guess we could just toss a couple quick things out there. These aren't really like hot tag topics, but congrats to Cassie Lee. She's pregnant. She and Sean Spears. That's awesome.
Hell yeah. Good for them, man. They seem like the nicest people in the world.
Congrats to Hacksaw Jim Duggan, cancer free.
Hell yeah.
Good news.
Did beat cancer's ass for like a third time? Hacksaw Jim Duggan's a fighter.
He's a tough guy.
Oh.
You could say.
It's that Canadian blood.
Randomly came across a story this week about Shelly Martinez saying that she was a bit obsessed with Paul Heyman for a little bit there, and she would totally have fucked him
Yeah, I read that. I think I read that on e-wrestling news or something. Oh my god.
It's just
That
like,
sentence.
okay, that's a sentence. That's a story that I'm reading. That she's like, yeah, I'd have fucked Paul Heyman. Like, depending on how
Shout out
slow
to
the hot tags
Paulie.
are.
Shout out to Paulie.
It was the ponytail. That must have been what it was. Most of the other hot tags that I've got are AEW based, some prediction stuff, some talent stuff. But one little speculation thing going on is that Karrion Kross, maybe some others, could possibly be following in the Dakota Kai footsteps and returning to WWE, basically being the sense of Triple H being like, yeah, you know how that all fucking sucked? Well, how about we do a do-over and do the thing that we were doing at NXT that was working? You guys want to come back? And some of them might. I don't know who I would really necessarily put like a bet on. I wouldn't have ever imagined in that any scenario of it being like, hey, at SummerSlam, Dakota Kai is going to be re-signed, get a call up, and Io Shirai is going to get called up, and all this other stuff. So clearly, quote unquote, anything can happen. But I am down for some of those people coming back. I mean, plenty of them I felt were tossed aside for no real good reason. And it's unfortunate that some of them kind of can't, because I think that some of them aren't really doing that great in AEW or elsewhere. But anybody standing out to you guys are like, oh man, this person seems like they could.
Well, I mean, Fightful Select just reported that Karrion Kross is an option, that he's being discussed as a name of interest WWE wants to bring back. Tony Khan made it very clear Adam Cole is signed until 2027. So, guess not Adam Cole, even though I would love to see him get the Mania moment. I want to see Gargano get the Mania moment.
Gargano's the main one for me. I'm like, I want Gargano back.
Ciampa wins the U.S. title next week, and it all leads to Ciampa Gargano one more time at WrestleMania. I'll allow it. Like, you know, he deserves it. Who else? Really, for me, I think like a lot of the main ones are signed to AEW. Like Keith Lee, I would have loved to have seen him get a real shot. I want to see Bray Wyatt. Bray Wyatt's an original Triple H guy. Can we get Bray Wyatt done properly? Is it possible?
You think he's more of a Triple H guy? I always thought he was more of a Vince guy.
I mean, Bray Wyatt doesn't happen without NXT.
Huh.
Eric Young, too. I know that he Triple H likes sanity.
See, I can't picture Eric Young coming back. I think some of these other people, like, again, I can't speak for Triple H, but I feel like he watched some of these guys, he liked what they were doing, and he was like, let me try to see what I can do with them, and maybe we can do even better. And I think some of them kind of prove that maybe they don't necessarily have that extra bump up. And Eric Young, he's more than had success, but I can't picture him even reaching like a mid-card title level. So if he's going to be a bigger fish in a smaller pond, like an Impact, be a little bit more comfortable, makes more sense to me than to WWE to reach out to bring him back and whatever. But I could see people coming back as well for trainer spots, like a Timothy Thatcher. That can make a lot of sense to me. A lot of those names you got to look at, and it's probably like, yeah, Triple H is probably like, damn it, if this would have just happened a few months earlier, I could have fucking gotten Cesaro. I could have gotten Keith Lee. I could have gotten Swerve. I could have gotten Malachi Black or...
I mean, even like, well, remember Black was starting a feud on SmackDown when he went over to AEW.
Tony Storm, you know, like...
It's so funny that things happen the way they did.
Anybody on your end, Callum, that you think you'd be willing to wager could potentially come back?
I mean, Gargano's the obvious one. Gargano and Candice LeRae are the main ones, I'd say. I mean, Candice is obviously very dependent on when she wants to get back in the ring after recently having a child. So that one might be a bit more overdue, but yeah, I mean, I'm still reluctant to get into this whole like everything's going to be great again bandwagon. that a lot of people were falling into after one decent episode of Monday Night Raw. So I am still of the opinion that if I actually really like someone and want them to be successful in wrestling, I'd rather they go to AEW.
Right.
But that's just me. I think that we're going to see more independent wrestlers or more people that have an actual strong wrestling background appearing in WWE going forward, which can only be a good thing. But then you look at the most recent tryout that they had, where indie wrestlers were completely barred from appearing. And apparently, at least according to some reports, they suffered a shit ton of injuries in those tryouts.
Really?
Yeah, apparently there were like loads of people getting injured. And it was just like full of like college athletes and all these other ones. That apparently they signed over a dozen of them anyway. So
14.
we'll see. Yeah, 14. So we'll see how that all pans out. But I presume Dwight Howard isn't one of the signings they made. The basketball, the NBA star that showed up and apparently said that he wants to join WWE someday, because I don't think he's got a club I don't think he's got a basketball club at the moment. So we'll see. But yeah, I think that they need to add some depth to their roster of people that can actually work and help some of the younger guys that are green but have potential and help steer them the right way. Because right now it feels like, especially in NXT, it feels like a lot of the blind leading the blind.
Yeah, that's true.
Talk about that fucking Lash Legend match again.
Yeah, we'll talk about some TV recap stuff. As far as people signing and going to different companies and everything like that, one of the hot tags to talk about is that I'm sure a good portion of this is inspired by this criticism with the whole thing coming out with Jonathan Gresham, but AEW has expanded their talent relations team. You've got Tony Schiavone is now being classified senior producer and special advisor to talent. No,
It just sounds to me like he's taking over the Jim Ross role.
Kinda. Seems like it, maybe. I don't know. Special advisor could mean practically anything. I mean, it could be like helps you negotiate contracts, helps talent scout, helps just be a guy that people can talk to backstage and relay information. I mean, it's a very generic term. Sonjay Dutt is being classified vice president of production and creative coordination. You got the vice president of show and creative coordination is QT Marshall. The vice president of talent development is Pat Buck. And a coach for the women's division is Madison Rayne.
Yeah, they all sound like reasonable promotions and acquisitions in the form of Madison Rayne, who's only just recently left Impact Wrestling, and so I think this is the first time. I think we discussed this earlier in outside of the call, but the first time that she's signed to a promotion outside of Impact. So good on her. I think I don't know what the role of the coach would entail. I mean, I don't want to crap all over this, but I don't think she's a very good wrestler. I don't think she's ever really been a very good wrestler throughout her entire.
So here's what I would say there. When you have someone like Anna Jay, who I think still had like less than 40 matches, maybe, she can at least offer some television wrestling experience, because at least Madison Rayne was in Impact when it was still a big deal.
I mean, that is true, but I also would go by the fact that Anna Jay might have had only 40 wrestlers, 40 matches. I think that she's a better wrestler than Madison Rayne is. But that's just my opinion as well.
Although we do know that she'll be on Rampage tonight, so she'll be competing as well.
I think.
Well, did they say that she's competing? Or did they just say that she was going to be appearing?
I believe they said competing.
I mean, we'll see. We'll find out later tonight, one way or the other. I know she's done commentary, some stuff on Dark Elevation.
That's not the role I want her in.
No, she's not a great commentator either. So it's kind of one of the things where I would rather like Serena Deeb was working and coaching at the same time, or something along those lines, or Mercedes Martinez. like someone who I know is really capable in the ring and has got a lot of experience behind them. And Madison Rayne does have a lot of experience. I think she could help on the character side of things, definitely. But I don't know if she's the most qualified person to be an in-ring coach, but we'll see. And the rest of them, I think, is just trying to, as I say, maybe a response to the Jonathan Gresham thing, but shore up the whole talent relations, make people, put people in more senior positions so they can be, I guess, take some of the responsibilities off Tony Khan's shoulders.
So my thing is, why they don't necessarily have to announce this. They're not like a publicly traded company, you know. So they're obviously doing this for some, good PR, and it's a lot of names people know and all that. But I hope it works out for them. I'm glad Schiavone is continuing in wrestling. I'll say that.
He seems so reinvigorated with AEW. Like, he's just not a factor. And then AEW comes along and he's just like, yeah, I'll do that. I'll do that. I'll do that. This is great. This is fun. I love that. That's cool. You can't, no, I guess we should get into that in a little bit. I'll hold off on that about as far as TV content. We've still got AEW Fight Forever, the little teaser trailer, and the Tony Schiavone and Britt Baker thing. I wasn't super impressed, but I'm not a gamer, so that's not speaking to me in that fashion. I'm certainly not planning on picking it up. I haven't really enjoyed almost any wrestling games, to be perfectly honest. Even like the ones from back in the day, like, when I was a little kid and I would be playing like WWE WrestleMania or the Warzone game or anything. Those were fun when I was just, used to that era. But when you get into the more complicated stuff and you got to do this combination of buttons just to be able to do a pinfall and all that stuff, to me, it's just like I'm putting in more effort than I really feel like doing. It's not fun anymore. So Fight Forever did not do anything that stood out to me as far as like the mini games seemed like it could be potentially fun, but I could imagine playing that for 20 minutes and then not feeling like ever doing it again. What do you guys feel about Fight Forever?
I'm very excited. I mean, the idea that the whole pitch here is that they're going back to the days of, No Mercy, when everybody loved wrestling games and they got the whole team, and even the teaser trailer had the THQ logo go back to what it was in the days of, the Attitude Era. They're trying hard here. I just hope that they're not trying so hard that they missed the importance of good gameplay and easy to pick up and play gameplay.
Yeah, I'm a little on the fence. When I saw the whole trailer with Schiavone and Breaker at the gameplay, it looks like it's far from finished. Like, it doesn't look great. Like, I think some of the mini games and some of the fit stuff they're presenting look fairly interesting, but some of the stuff like the mechanics with the trash can looks really, really clunky. So I'll wait and see. Maybe it will develop significantly over the next couple of months, but right now I'm not super impressed with the way that it looks and the way it plays. We'll see what it's like in a little while.
I also didn't really like the commercial itself. Kind of don't understand why they framed it as Tony Schiavone goes to Britt Baker's hotel room and she's been throwing pizza around and playing the game. Don't understand the creative direction there.
I think the idea was that she's like super focused on the video game, and that she hadn't like done anything outside of just eating pizza, threw it all over the floor because she's been so obsessed with this game.
Not a great teaser in my mind. They've had way better ones for WWE ones where I've been like, yeah, I'm not playing that fucking game, but at least the people brawling that are like legends and everything, could have done something better. Maybe they have a better idea for like the main trailer, since this was more of a teaser.
Right. And look, at the end of the day, it's another game. It's more options for wrestling fans, which I still think, despite the fact that 2K22 is a better game than 2K20, that's like saying, hey, WrestleMania 9 is better than the WrestleMania in front of nobody for COVID. Like, it's not really much of an accomplishment. So I'm glad that wrestling fans have the option.
Let's bounce over to TV recap stuff. We didn't get a chance to talk about SmackDown from last time around. We got a good old-fashioned Donnybrook. The second good old-fashioned blank thing that they've done on SmackDown recently. I don't know what the direction is there, but somebody's liking a good old-fashioned. I think it's Pritchard. I think it's someone else. I don't know. Debate in the comments. But Drew McIntyre beat Sheamus to get that number 1 contender spot for Clash at the Castle that he had previously already declared for himself a few months back, when he was just like, I'm fighting Roman at Clash at the Castle. And then they're like, fuck, that's actually like 4 months away. Let's get around to that in a little bit. Shotzi beats Aaliyah. We have gone past the full month range of not having Lacey Evans versus Aaliyah. They have milked this for over a month for a match nobody fucking cares about.
Really? I didn't even think about it like that.
There were 3 different segments of Aaliyah supposed to fight Lacey, and Lacey cuts a promo instead. And then they did this. So that means that's 4 weeks.
No, they had to have at least one match.
Yeah. Well, no, match yet.
What was that? You cut out?
Well, I say they haven't had a match yet.
No.
Oh, that's crazy.
But it's just a case of, wasn't it supposed to be? It was supposed to be Lacey Evans against Aaliyah, but Lacey Evans is injured, right?
Is she? I don't remember.
Well, they said that that's the reason they pulled her from that match, because she couldn't compete. And that's why they gave it Shotzi instead, which is even more baffling considering the fact that realistically, if you are hell bent on making this Aaliyah versus Lacey Evans match, why would you have Aaliyah lose a match to a woman who isn't even appearing on the shows regularly? Just had Shotzi win. Basically means that, okay, Aaliyah's even a bigger loser taking on Lacey Evans.
Unless Lacey loses to Aaliyah, then it's like, wow, Lacey's a real big loser.
Yeah.
You know?
But in that spirit, for tonight's episode of SmackDown, which obviously we're recording beforehand, they have a gauntlet with Raquel, Natalya, Xia Li, Aaliyah, Shotzi, Sonya, and Shayna to face Liv Morgan at Clash at the Castle. Who do you think's going to win?
I think they're going to throw somebody else in there. Like Ronda Rousey or somebody is just going to be... Oh, no, she's in the kayfabe suspension going on right now.
Yeah.
So maybe Flair comes in and does that?
You know, I'm going to buck that trend and say Shayna Baszler wins the match because Triple H is in charge and Shayna Baszler's a fucking beast.
That could happen. Could be Sonya.
I think, Shayna and Sonya make the most sense, but... And maybe Raquel, because like Triple H made Raquel women's champion as well, so she might push her.
On the flip side, also maybe Xia, because Triple H might be like, "Hey, I'm sorry. Would you like a title match just to try to smooth things over because you've done nothing since you got here?"
I mean, at the grand scheme of things, it doesn't really matter because if it's not Ronda or Charlotte winning that match, then Liv Morgan's going to retain it. Clash of the Castle anyway. So yeah, if it is one of the 7 people listed for the match, then they're not winning the title.
I disagree. If it's Shayna, I think Shayna can win.
She won't.
I think she can. Listen.
She won't.
We're manifesting here, Cal. Okay.
She won't.
This is enough.
She won't.
She might, but she won't. I'll be the middle between you two.
The reason why she won't is because, Ronda and Becky are going to have a title match at WrestleMania, and Charlotte and Bianca are going to have a title match at WrestleMania. So Shayna winning the title is somewhere between. That doesn't fit in.
Yes, it does. She can drop it to Charlotte at Royal Rumble.
Yep, heel versus heel. That's great.
I still think that there might be Raquel and Flair in there. I don't know. Just shot in the dark for me, but we'll figure that out in time. Viking Raiders beat the New Day.
The new and improved Viking Raiders.
The new and vicious Viking Raiders.
Whatever.
That's right. I fucking hate when they do that stuff. The new and vicious Viking Raiders. Oh, because these are the new and the vicious Viking Raiders. Okay.
You know what would be nice? Hey, it's the War Raiders, Hanson and Rowe. Fucking Christ. Like,
you know, it'd be really nice. If they really want to be new, they could really be reinvigorated. With our sponsors, Manscaped. Viking Raiders are growing out those beards. They've got a lot of hair going on there. They should definitely pick up the Lawnmower 4.0. They should pick up the Weed Whacker. Use that to trim that nose hair. And, you know, you're running around the ring, you're sweating and everything like that. Plenty of use for all those different deodorants and shampoos and body washes and all that. But you don't have to be a Viking Raider in the ring to be able to pick up these things. No, just go to manscaped.com and use the promo code SMARK, SMARK, and get 20% off and free shipping on whatever it is that you decide to pick up. Whether you want to be one of those people that just gets the shears kit and says, you know what, I'm going to trim the nails and that's all I'm interested in doing. I don't really want to shave this giant beard off with that or whatever. Obviously, these are better for your family jewels down there instead. But, you know, I mean, you could use it elsewhere. I've actually used that Lawnmower 4.0 to clean up my sideburns quite a bit. You know, it's a great tool for that. Never cut my ear a single time. Or if you want to prove that you are cuter than Ivar and Eric, because, I mean, we all know Ivar's cute, but Eric not so much. And you want to pick up a pair of those boxers or that really comfy t-shirt that I wear at least once a week. You know, it's in my regular rotation of t-shirts that I wear on a regular basis because it's one of my more comfortable t-shirts. And, you know, it sounds like it's an oddball thing to say, but hey, you pick up a t-shirt, still going to get 20% off and free shipping. So whether you are in the market for any of those things, or if you're just going to browse, go to manscaped.com and use that promo code SMARK, 20% off and free shipping on whatever it is that you pick up. Thank you to Manscaped for sponsoring us. Thank you for anybody who picks anything up. Let us know what you got in comments below. A couple other things that happened on SmackDown. We factored it into SummerSlam and stuff, so, you know, kind of carrying on with that. But Monday Night Raw was a follow-up for that. So that is brand new stuff for us to talk about, including we had the triple threat matches that led to a number one contenders match. AJ Styles beat Mustafa Ali and The Miz. Tommaso Ciampa beat Dolph Ziggler and Chad Gable. And then Tommaso Ciampa beat AJ Styles. So we're going to get Ciampa versus Bobby Lashley next week for the United States title. I don't think Ciampa's winning it. But I'm like, all right, fuck, yeah, immediately. We're actually doing something with Ciampa now. Good.
It's not only just Ciampa, though.
No, I mean,
what you just said there.
Mustafa Ali did better than what he's been doing in weeks and weeks and weeks. You know, you got Chad Gable in a singles match instead of just he's teaming with Otis to beat or to lose to Street Profits or something again. You showcased 6 people in here. And the end of that AJ Styles match in particular, how fun was that? Mustafa Ali hits that 450 or whatever it was and goes immediately into the Styles clash. God damn.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
really good wrestling
you imagine that.
between 6 guys that can wrestle.
Yeah.
And yeah, having Ciampa win that little mini tournament, that's a sign that they do want to push him. I do agree with Tony. I don't think he's beating Bobby Lashley, but I think The Miz is screwing him out of that match.
I can see it. He just screws him over and you think that you're better than me. You know?
Yeah, and that'll lead to a feud between those two. And Ciampa can win that and progress forward.
This whole episode of Raw felt like it wasn't, you know, the most perfect, best episode of Raw ever or anything, but things went smooth. Promos, for the most part, were better. It didn't seem like they were scripted. Didn't seem like people had to do as much bullshit in the ring. There wasn't like, okay, we're going to have somebody come out and then we're going to cut to a commercial and then we're going to cut to a video package and then a backstage interview and then another video package and then a, you know, SmackDown rebound clip thing with a promotion for Flow. I forget the name of the brand. Progressive. And then, oh, look at that. The person's still in the ring. And like Liv Morgan's like getting ready for her match or something. We didn't have that happen. So this was a much easier episode of Monday Night Raw to watch than we've been getting for a while. Which is a great, great start.
I hope it continues, like I really do.
I think it's I don't want to say a false dawn, but I feel like having a first hour that has like no commercials is not something that we're going to see all the time.
Yeah, that's true.
And I would also say that a lot of it is maybe this is too controversial, maybe it's too harsh, but I think because of Raw standards being so low, that basically just doing something that's half decent was going to be considered great. And I think for the most part, this show was a lot of long matches, which is good in some capacity, but it also means that they didn't have to think as hard in other areas because they just decided, okay, we've got a load of good wrestlers, let's have them have good wrestling matches, and that's good for like what it is. But I don't know whether they actually progressed anything. It didn't feel like this banner episode or this game-changing episode that a lot of the reports seem to suggest it was. It just felt, okay, they're going to do things a little bit more decent, which is definitely an improvement, but I don't feel like the landscape has shifted with this episode of Raw. It just felt like, okay, we do some bad things, we're going to do a few better things, and that's about it, really. Because
So
we still had...
Go ahead.
We still had both women's match. Well, both... I think there were only 2 women's matches on this show, weren't there? The singles match.
Blair and Io and Asuka and Alexa.
Yeah, both matches which ended in non-finishes.
True.
So they still have those little tropes that they lean into, but hopefully they'll become less and less as time goes on. I'm optimistic, but I want to put a note of caution that I don't think everything's been fixed with one slightly better episode.
No, I mean, that's a fair assessment because it's not like this was something that like we went from crap to, the marquee episode of Raw in the history of the show or anything. But I think everybody, for the most part, and plenty of people are, I'm sure, would disagree, but I think the general consensus is everybody going, you know what? Actually, this wasn't bad. And if we're going to give a little bit of leeway, if like it might take some time to kind of work out the kinks and stuff, if we get at least this going forward, it's definitely an upgrade.
My thing is, and much like Callum said, I feel like a lot of the discourse was very positive surrounding this show, but I also feel like I remember times where WWE would get good and people get excited, and then you look back on it and it's like a footnote. Like if I said to you, man, I remember Payback 2013 feeling like this big shifting show because there was a lot of good wrestling there. You look at me and go, yeah, you were excited about Curtis Axel winning the IC title. So it could be a false alarm, but if they capitalize on what they've built, it could be the start of something great.
Now, on the NXT side of things, we have crowned new NXT Women's Tag Team Champions with KC and KC finally winning those titles.
Told you.
After like 9 years. And they're baby faces again. I mean, they didn't fully turn heel, but it was very clear that they were heading towards that direction. And they're like, no, thank you guys for believing in us. We're not assholes.
God. Dude, they needed to win. Like any other team would have won, it would have been wrong.
They pretty much did need to win. And I don't know how great that is going to be going forward, if they're going to really have a great title reign or anything. They're not, the benchmark performers that I would say are, representational of what tag team wrestling can be right now. But compared to you listen to Leon and Valentina Royce or something like that, it's like, yeah, all right, it makes sense for them to go with that. And at least we got new tag team champions. It's better than what we could say for the main roster right now.
Well, let's talk about what Bayley said about those tag team titles on her recent appearance on After the Bell. She was talking about, maybe the roster's gotten a little too far into the, hey, let's all compete with one another and they've forgotten what can happen when they all work together. Now, I think that Bailey, given that she's close to Sasha, might be able to actually, get her back in there. But I'm going to read what she said on the podcast. I get along with most everybody, and I think I can help everybody realize that I'm not doing this because I'm selfish, and I'm not doing this because I want it to be all about me. I'm doing this for the bigger picture, and it's going to be better in the end. Trust the process, trust me, trust what we're doing. I'm not saying that's not the case right now. It's just sometimes we get so wrapped up in this hamster wheel that we just do our jobs and it's okay, let me go back and do whatever. It's going to take a lot more focus to take this to the next level, which I think we're going to get to. And she also said, I want the tag titles to come back and play a very important role in the show. So maybe she can do it.
Maybe. What other stuff we got in NXT? Let's see. Carmelo Hayes had a North American Championship Open Challenge. Giovanni Vinci was coming out, and he spent too much time posing. So Nathan Fraser ran to the ring first. And I was like, you know what? That's kind of funny. We'll give him credit for that. After that, we had the NXT Heatwave Summit. This is, by any other name, it's another contract signing. The only difference being JD McDonough signed with his blood from his fingertip.
I liked it. I like everything Braun does. He's such a Steiner that it's like, yeah, you would have fit in almost any era. And JD is embracing this cerebral, almost creepy, methodical killer type of gimmick, and I think it works.
Are you liking that, or you more the Jordan Devlin side of things, Callum?
What do you mean?
Like, just Jordan Devlin being a character like that, or do you like this JD McDonough targeting your limbs and all that?
I've always thought Jordan Devlin is a bit like just nothing as a wrestler. Like he's perfectly serviceable, but he has no character. And I think as JD McDonough, his character's even got an equal. I think this entire summit and this entire feud between these two has totally sucked from start to finish. There's absolutely no possibility that JD McDonough, in my mind, could win the title here. And basically going from the Joe Gacy thing, I think Bron Breakker's title run has been an absolute bust so far.
But would you say that that's on him, or would you just say like they've
he's been given really shitty people to feud with. You should be feuding with Solo Sikoa and Carmelo Hayes.
Yeah,
but no,
maybe they're just
the only decent feud he's had has been Cameron Grimes. And that's because and the most interesting part about that is Cameron Grimes' spiral into like the point where he now might be recruited by Joe Gacy. All the other stuff has been like total crap.
Yeah, I think we can all agree that like JD is not going to win.
I don't think he will. No, I don't think it's necessarily Breaker's fault, but I also don't necessarily think that part of it isn't.
I don't think he's helping it. I think he's quite bland.
Right. I think that they don't give him anything better to do because he kind of can't necessarily do anything better. His promos are very much like, "Oh yeah, pal, I'm gonna beat you." And what else can you do with that,
Well, and so much of his character is wrapped up in the fact that he's Rick Steiner's kid.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he doesn't actually seem to have much of a character of his own outside the fact of, oh, my father was a famous wrestler.
I'm a tough guy and I'm currently holding the title.
I'm a famous wrestler and I'm acting like my uncle. That's basically his character.
So that's why I say like he's such a good Steiner, because even though his name's not Steiner, everything he does is just like, yeah, you can totally tell what his lineage is. And I don't know, I like Braun a lot. I agree with what you're saying about the McDonough thing not feeling very threatening, but I also feel like they're really dragging their ass because they don't know what they're doing with Sikoa. I think they might want to bring him up for the bloodline.
Let's talk about somebody who's not threatening. when they stand next to Duke Hudson.
Oh.
That's Axiom. I fucking loved that though, because it's just Axiom's all like, yeah, I'm gonna change things here or whatever. Duke Hudson, essentially, the too long didn't read of this. Is Duke Hudson walks over and he's like, "You're a fucking nerd," and bitch slaps him down.
He calls him a nerd. Bitch slaps him down. They brawl around the arena. Duke gets the better of it, and Axiom's just like, "No, I still want to match with you." And then he manages to get a roll-up win. They didn't do Axiom a lot of favors in week 2.
Yeah. But I am a fan of Duke Hudson, so I liked the idea that he was just kind of like, "Shut up, you fucking nerd," smack. It's like, yeah, you're one of the bigger guys on the roster. I like to see you beat the crap out of some people every once in a while instead of just losing everything. So it sucks for Axiom, but I fucking loved it. I thought it was great.
When you say it sucks for Axiom, I mean, yeah, he did get the shit kicked out of him basically this entire segment, but he still won. What does that say about Duke Hudson?
True. Yeah. On paper, he still beat him. Yeah.
That is a bland, boring motherfucker who's getting out of this company in the next 6 months or so. Calling it now.
Maybe he can go to AEW and SmackDown some of the other ones.
Oh yeah, he can just join Cole Carter with this other list of like bland people there for some reason giving paychecks to.
Blake Christian is something about.
I know. It all started with fucking Tony Nese, and there seems to just be a cavalcade of these just like wrestlers that are like, yeah, they're perfectly simple, but what do they offer beyond that point? Why are we having Cole Carter win matches against Serpentico? Like, Serpentico's actually like, he's not great, but he's characterful, and he's been there for a long time. So why are we just this guy on his second match in? Like, basically, he's still soaking wet from being thrown in the river by D'Angelo. But yeah, I some of the hiring decisions in AEW are starting to baffle me a little bit.
I think that they're getting a little too. Well, we got to pick him up because he was just on NXT TV in a featured role, and that means we got to use him.
You mentioned the whole Troy Donovan thing. Let's talk about Legado del Fantasma splitting away from Tony D'Angelo and chanting Stacks of Lorenzo. They lost to the Creed brothers because Santos Escobar came back. And it's like, all right, yeah, we're doing the story that we know was coming from a mile away before it even started. But Legado is fun. I would be more than happy with them going up to the main roster. If they're going to stick in NXT, I think being babyfaces is the right call. And I don't know how they necessarily finish this whole thing, but I'm down for them to just do it now.
Losers leave. And I think while I would have originally said Legado leaves, no, the losers that leave have to be Tony D and company, because at this point it's just two guys.
You have to use this as an opportunity to push Santos into the main roster, because he's been ready pretty much since he signed with the company to be on the main roster and be in that level. And you could do the same with Legado as well. They look like they're a good act. Tony D'Angelo's really good for a guy of his experience, and I think that he's not ready to be on the main roster yet, but I think he could be a big name in NXT, and they should put an exclamation mark on that by having him beat Santos and banishing him at least from the brand, should I say.
What else we got in NXT? We got that Lash Legend match you wanted to talk about.
Oh, fucking hell. This spot that she does with the head in the ropes thing.
Yeah. I caught it this time.
It's just the absolute worst. And I don't know what she thinks she's achieving with that, or who's telling her to do that spot or anything like that. It just looks... The only thing that I can possibly imagine is that they think it's like some sort of basketball thing, because like the head is bouncing like a basketball between the ropes, and so they think that's like a nice little nod to the thing that she's actually good at.
It's got to be that.
rather than the wrestling, which he's not good at.
But you know what you do? You just put their head between the ropes, and then you have her dribble it like she's choking them on the rope, but it's dribbling like a basketball.
Yeah, well, do something that doesn't look like shit, which is what it currently looks like. Because it looked like shit when she did it against Indy Hartwell. It looked like shit in this match with Alba Fire. But fortunately, well, for the most part, that one spot just irks me. But overall, this is probably one of the better matches that Lash Legends has had because Alba Fire is really, really good at wrestling.
Yeah, as soon as this match started, I tuned away. I was just like, I don't need to watch this. I'm going to work on some of the other things I need to work on. And all that. This is following a Brooks Jensen and Joe Gacy match. And I was just like, I didn't need to really watch that one either. But you're not selling me on Lash Legend lately, you know? Like, she's got a look to her. But her promos, her in-ring stuff, it's not quite there. I firmly believe Lash Legend is exactly the type of person who it would be better off if I wouldn't have seen a single thing of her until like next year. And then maybe I would be like, all right, well, she's just starting off, but she's not too bad. And knowing the level that she's at now, I'm like, all right, when is she going to get to that level where I'm willing to work with this? Yeah. Maybe she'll prove me wrong. Other people have. We had a Falls Count Anywhere match between Solo Sikoa beating Von Wagner.
I really enjoyed this.
I had fun. I mean,
yeah, Von Wagner's improving quite a lot.
And this is a fun type of thing to do. You know, you can play around, have some fun with it. They did this weird thing with Mello and Trick helping a couple girls jumpstart their car. I don't know why they really even did that, to just like, you know, window dressing or something, but
no, it's so that you can once again get right back to Solo challenging for the North American title.
You think that's the end goal here? Solo just wins that belt and they just kind of took a detour?
Probably. I could see them getting into the idea of champ versus champ again, especially with the Bloodline having this obsession with unifying belts. And you could say, well, he's not in the Bloodline, but you know that they will make that comparison once they get the opportunity to. And I think I like how they also got Cameron Grimes out of the way, where he was, you know, walking out the door and they just sort of shoved him out of the way. I think that's a cool thing where, yeah, okay, they're all connected in this world. Why wouldn't you have them interact in that way?
What's the schedule for next week for NXT? Because it's not Heatwave, right? No, it's
not Heatwave. It's Cora Jade against Zoe Stark.
That's right, because they're setting up this whole thing that at Heatwave it's Cora against Roxanne, but Mandy Rose wants Cora to take out Zoe Stark ahead of time, and then she can fill in that title match. And yeah, that's right. That was the other main thing.
I like that. I mean, like, the Roxanne promo was fine. The women do well with the pre-recorded promos, and Roxanne's cut promos, so she's not fake acting like some of the other ones on that brand. It's Nikita Lyons against Kiana James. It's the final accord between Santos and Tony, so we'll see whatever they're going to do there. And I believe there's maybe another women's match.
No, when that all happens, we will talk about that down the line. But let's finish things up with some AEW talk. We've got Dynamite, and we've got what will be the final thing that we do here with our predictions for Battle of the Belts for tonight and for Quake by the Lake. So Dynamite had Jay Lethal against Orange Cassidy. Multiple times during the match, the lethal injection. I thought it was funny that he did it like 3 times in a row. That's leading to one of the Battle of the Belts we'll talk about. Jay Lethal against Wardlow. We got a big turn with Cole, Fish, and O'Reilly turning on the Young Bucks and Hangman and Page saving them. So now we know they are definitely pulling the trigger on that for the tournament and the trios titles. It's got to pretty much be that. If it's not those three against those three, I don't know where they're going to go.
So I still want Hangman to, for now, side with the Dark Order and for it to be Kenny. Because if it's not, then it becomes, you have Hangman and Cole been fighting for like 9 months. Because it feels like a lot of what Cole has done in AEW is just fight Hangman. And I'd like to see the Kenny match just because it's a bit more fresh.
The most interesting thing for me of this was the fact that AEW, who really do tend to like slow, long builds and just tease things out every now and again, just decide to go, fuck it, and then just immediately have, as soon as the Undisputed Elite were back together, just immediately break them all up. And that was an interesting take, but I guess it's good to sometimes keep you on your toes like that, and some kid in the crowd really hated it.
Yeah, he was mad.
That crying kid is it. Yeah, you always have to have shots like that. It's like the Miz girl and stuff like that.
Yeah, Angry Miz girl. This is like the crying elite kid or something.
Yeah. The most interesting thing, outside of just the fact they decided to do the turn here, was Cole and O'Reilly still apparently not being cleared to compete. So my question is, are they actually going to be part of the tournament?
I'm hoping that that's a red herring. That they were just saying we're not clear to compete just so they could attack the Young Bucks. Because if they're not cleared, what are we doing here? Is it going to be, Bucks? Go ahead.
You could just have a 6-man tag grudge match, as well as the trios title being defended between 2 other teams instead.
You absolutely could, but...
Or they could screw the Bucks out of winning or something. But I mean, they did get physical, so I'm hoping that means that they're cleared.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it wasn't like, oh, we're not cleared to compete, and you can't, like, we're not doing anything. It was, they beat them up. Well, Cole didn't do much, actually.
Yeah. But it is good that they have left it open-ended in that, even though the Bucks haven't officially reunited, so it does mean that there is chance that Omega get involved, or if Omega still isn't available, there's still Brandon Cutler that they can fall back on as well if they want to go with Paige and 2 of the Dark Order boys instead. So yeah, there are options they can take here. But yeah, it was an effective turn.
I feel like this really tugged at the heartstrings for a lot of people. Like, people were so giddy about Hangman and the Bucks getting back together, and I had forgotten just how long it's been since, I guess, the Elite was really united, because it's been about 2.5 years, and people were just over the moon about this. I love them as a pairing, but I didn't feel that same, like, it's been so long, finally. Because I feel like where AEW failed was they didn't capitalize on the Elite portion of their name, where it was like, we're watching this promotion to see these guys, and they almost went out of their way at first to not do that. I don't know if it was to not seem like nepotism, but I wasn't feeling as into this as some other people were.
We got Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter beat Thunderstorm, really reiterating even more to me that I'm like, all right, we're just doing Baker and Storm. We're all out again.
In Rosa.
Or, yeah, Baker and Rosa. And maybe they do Hayter, maybe Storm, maybe it's a 4-way, but I'm like, talking about this before, but Thunder Rosa's title reign's not doing much for me.
Well, it leads into a bit of discussion about Battle of the Belts, and I just want to leave that till later, because one of the matches of Battle of the Belts is Thunder Rosa versus Jamie Hayter for the AEW Women's title.
Well, I guess we might as well just talk about it. We'll backtrack and talk about Wardlow. I don't think at all that title is changing hands. It wouldn't be the craziest thing in the world, but I think that Rosa's just beating Hayter.
I think Hayter's got a shot.
Because yeah.
No, go ahead.
I'd say out of the 3
We lost Jay a little bit there.
I'd say out of the 3 title matches that are on Battle of the Belts, is the most likely to change hands.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
We all definitely are agreeing. Wardlow's not losing that belt to Jay Lethal.
No,
You'd fucking hope not. I'd hope not.
And
I never say never, but still.
I can't imagine Takeshita is beating Claudio for the ROH World Championship.
That's just not happening.
No, but you can plug that match into my veins. That's going to be a hell of a time.
Yeah, so I mean, technically speaking, out of those 3, I guess I would say Hayter has the more likely chance, but I don't think that she has even like a 48% chance. I don't even think it's like a 50-50 kind of deal. I think it's more maybe like a 15%.
Here's my thing. You gotta, these Battle of the Belts shows need something fucking good to happen on them, because a lot of them have just been sort of blah. And I think Guevara won the title back on one of them, the TNT title. But I feel like a major women's title switch would feel like a major happening here. It sets up something different for All Out. Because right now, what's the All Out match? I don't know what the rankings are, but I'm sure, Baker's got to be getting up there. And you can't really do that match again.
Even the rankings don't necessarily always come into play.
I think Hayter wins, because I think it gets people talking, if nothing else.
So far, they've always had at least one title. Not necessarily switch hands, but someone has won a title on every Battle of the Belt so far. So, and funnily enough, it's been Guevara.
Was it Sammy twice?
Yeah, Sammy winning the interim TNT championship, and then him winning the TNT championship from Scorpio Sky. So they do have a history of title changes or title wins. So I think there's a good chance that Jamie Hayter wins this one, because it's either a rematch with Thunder Rosa at All Out, or a match with Toni Storm at All Out, and it also sets in motion the idea of Britt Baker becoming jealous and fractions between that team coming fast. And
so the seeds of doubt and all that.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Tony. I think the Thunder Rosa reign has been underwhelming, and that's why maybe I'm leaning towards the idea of Hayter.
I think we can all agree on that, because it really just has been, and I don't know if it's one of those like, well, the money's in the chase and it's all about watching her chase the title, or if it's just, I don't know, maybe she's not as polished. Maybe just something is clearly off every time she's been defending the belt.
There's a certain it factor that people talk about all the time, where, it doesn't have to just be in wrestling. It could be anywhere. People just gravitate towards certain people, or, somebody goes into a room and the energy just like sparks or something. And Thunder Rosa feels to me like one of those people that on paper makes a lot of sense, but when you actually watch the product and you go, okay, she's got an interesting look with like the face paint and all. She's clearly passionate. She knows what she's doing in the ring for, she's definitely one of their better wrestlers and everything, but it's just lacking that oomph factor that makes me just go, and I don't really need to pay that much attention to it, because promos are not her strong suit. So I'm not enraptured with the character. I'm not caring at this point about, okay, the Baker thing's gone on for like what, a year and a half or something, 2 years. Everybody knows more than just from the WWE side of things. If it keeps going on and it keeps going and it keeps going on, unless you give me something that's going to be like a hook that keep me going, I'm just going to basically start tuning it out, because it's just going to be, they had another match and then whatever. So like this Hayter and Baker against Thunderstorm match, I didn't watch a second of it. I just skipped the entire thing. So I'm like, all right, well, either Thunderstorm wins and it doesn't matter, or Hayter and Baker wins and it doesn't matter. I'll watch the Rosa match at All Out, of course. My eyes will be glued on that, unless it's god awful, then I won't be, able to keep my attention. But unless that belt is on the line and I feel like it actually really matters, rather than Thunder Rosa's defending it against like Emi Sakura, where I'm like, all right, she's not winning. then I'm not super interested. And even when she's had that belt up against like Toni Storm, I found myself kind of struggling for it. So if you just do Baker and Rosa again, yeah, they've had good stuff, but you're gonna have to sell me again on rewatching the third or fourth or fifth time rather than just going back and watching the other match that I liked from the past. So that was one of those things where I'm just like, all right, well, it is what it is. We got Darby Allin cutting a promo on Brody King because they have a match coming up at Quake by the Lake. It's a coffin match that I'm thinking Darby Allin wins.
Yeah.
Yeah, coffin match is his speciality, so yeah.
And I like this. I want Darby to get back into a title picture because I feel like it's been a while. I'm not sure when Miro beat him, but it feels like it's been well over a year. And I'm ready for him to take that next step because you got to strike while the iron's hot with him.
Lucha Bros and Andrade and Roosh are having a match at Quake by the Lake. That should be a lot of fun.
It's a tornado, right? Like anything goes. Either way, it should be a fantastic match.
I mean, basically, whenever it's the Lucha Bros in a tag match, it's going to be a tornado.
Pretty much, right?
Yes, that is true.
I don't know who I'm going to win this one. Last time I wrote up some predictions, I ended up going with that I think Roosh and Andrade should win, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they will.
I think they should, and I think they probably will.
Yeah, I think they should get the victory as well, just because it makes more sense for them to challenge Lee and Strickland for the titles.
And what else we got on here? Jade Cargill's got an open challenge. Anybody you want to throw out who they think it might be?
Athena, maybe.
It should really be Athena at this point. We should probably,
But they would announce it if it was Athena.
Right.
That's weird. I don't know. Last time they did this open challenge, it was just some nobody, wasn't it? Not to say nobody, but like
it was Layla, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was Layla. Yeah, they just put Layla Grace. Maybe they just find someone else who got the open challenge, but it really should be, or it should be either Athena, Chris Statlander, or Willow Nightingale. They're basically the three that make most sense, but realistically, it's probably going to be like Ashley D'Ambrose or something, or one.
No, it's if they're advertising it a week in advance, I imagine that it's either someone who's ready to make a return or something like that, because last time the whole deal was they put out the challenge at like 10:45 at night, and Layla Gray was just like the first person to see it. With this, you're giving us a week. Hopefully it's good. I don't know. I would really hope that it's someone special. I wouldn't want to put this out there, but I'm going to anyway because it just came into my mind. But what about Brandy?
Brandy Rhodes?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
I don't think that's happening.
And I think fundamentally, that's the reason why I don't think it's someone special, because I just don't think someone's beating Jade Cargill unannounced. So
I don't know. They get really geeked about their TV shit.
It could just be like, it's Allison Kay or someone that like is a name, but she could still lose,
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
You could throw in Mercedes Martinez, make it champion versus champion or something.
Yeah. I think Cargill retains no matter what, though.
You know what? Madison.
Could be Madison.
She's fighting Layla tonight. So maybe she accepts the challenge for Wednesday.
And then what else we have? Christian Cage beat Matt Hardy. I didn't bother to watch it. Powerhouse Hobbs had won a squash. Anna Jay choked out someone backstage. We had a dumpster match. Claimed beat Gun Club. And Max Caster had that little rap about Vince McMahon retiring. That was fun.
Yeah. This is good. I think that they should be the next team to get a tag title shot. I don't know if they'll win it, but they should get a shot.
I think I'd potentially put the belt on him. Not necessarily right now, but somewhat soon.
Oh,
I think 2023.
Yeah.
They'll get the belts within a year, but I don't think it's happening just yet.
Then we got Chris Jericho beat Wheeler Yuta. He's going to fight Jon Moxley for the interim AEW World Championship coming up at Quake by the Lake, which, I mean, I don't imagine that there's any real scenario that Jericho is going to win that, but look, it's the first champion against the second champion. It's a big name kind of match, so I don't hate it.
They're really teasing Lionheart Chris Jericho, so I imagine he'll be coming out in something that is reflective of his old gear, which should be a lot of fun. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say maybe CM Punk after the match. I assume Moxley wins, and then CM Punk's like, all right, I'm back.
Well, yeah, well, there is a discussion, at least sort of from Meltzer, saying that he still thinks that Punk is a way off from returning. Like he's thinking that Full Gear is probably more likely for the match with Moxley rather than All Out.
So, if that is the case, what do you do at All Out?
I would say you do Moxley against. Who would you put Moxley against in that scenario?
I know for me, if Punk isn't ready, then I'm saying Darby.
Darby's a good shout. I'd say you maybe could do something with Malachi.
Yeah, I could do that.
Malachi's wrapped up with Miro, though.
Yeah, that's true. They seem to be feuding, so there's potential. Yeah, so maybe not so much that side. I think the likelihood is that Moxley's tight. That's when you pivot and you decide to go with the trios match between, if it does go in this direction, of Hangman and the Bucks against the Undisputed Era, or whatever they want to call themselves from that point. You make that the main event, because that would be a bigger selling match. And you could do Moxley against. I mean, it's a bit like inside Blackpool Combat Club, but Danielson could be good.
I would think Danielson, if he's available. I would definitely say Danielson.
I mean, as odd as it sounds, Daniel Garcia just beat Danielson.
I know.
So you could. That would be a hell of a stretch, but you know, if you have Jericho lose and then you build up the story of the young guy in the Jericho Appreciation Society being built up to face Jon Moxley, and even though he wouldn't win, have a good showing against him, and then that causes some fractures within the JAS, then that could be good. But yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be difficult to find people that could challenge Moxley. I mean, you got Andrade there. You've got other people like you got Powerhouse Hobbs. You could push him immediately if you wanted to. I know the match with Starks is the one they want to do there, but you could push him and keep the Starks match aside for a little while. I don't think it'll be hard to find someone for Moxley to face other than CM Punk.
No, I agree. It is really interesting when you think about that their options might feel a little out of the blue or forced, but I agree. You should be able to find something.
Well, we'll figure that out in the coming weeks. All Out is still a little bit away, so there's still time for something, but at least that's this week worth of stuff. We got SmackDown tonight. We got Rampage tonight. Battle of the Belts is being recorded tonight. So by the time we get to tomorrow, we'll know some more information about some of these topics, but hot tags aren't happening tomorrow. They already happened. You already listened to them. So if you want to tell us your thoughts, drop your comments below and hit the like button if you enjoyed this podcast. Hopefully you did. If you want to help us out on the monetary side of things, we mentioned before, click that join button, hit up that Patreon, click that thanks button. Even $1 a month goes a long way, especially the more people that do it. And if you want to show your support over to fanboysanonymous.com, that'll help out just as much as well, because it's all funneling under a mango tree. It's all roots under that, or branches, or whatever the tree structure is. I don't know. And I am at Tony Mango all over the place. I'm not a botanist. I don't know some of that shit. Stems and whatnot. But yeah, find me at Tony Mango and, send me a tweet or something. Do the same for these guys. Rob?
Yeah, and send me a tweet at Dude Felice, please. Make it nice. I always appreciate nice words. And follow me everywhere else at Dude Felice, Twitch, Instagram, the eventual dudefelice.com. I will plug it always because it is coming. And check out everything on smarkoutmovement.com, including Callum Wiggins' fancy power rankings.
Yeah, my super fancy magical.
You're British. It's fancy no matter what.
My magical delicious power rankings. Check them out anytime you want to. This every Saturday, new edition comes out. Check that out on smarkoutmovement.com. Check out the Fantasy League, both on smarkoutmovement.com and www.fantasyleague.com. Wherever you want to search for to find it, you can find the Fantasy League there. And follow me on Twitter at WaveMouse42.
All right, everyone. That is the hot tag. So thank you for listening to this. And we will see you next time with the next main event that we had already pre-recorded. The mock draft pay-per-view card for AEW and WWE. We out of our rosters. Now we get to tell you what matches we want to book. So stay tuned for that one coming up in a few days. And we will see you then. But for now, this has been another Smark Out moment. And we are being counted out.